The Prince and the Lost Daughter. Act 1. The Curse and the Forest. Jessel, a kind-hearted young woman, was abandoned by her mother in the forest years ago, when a great danger threatened their kingdom. Her mother, fearing for Jessel's life, left her behind to protect her from the impending doom. Raised by mystical creatures who guarded the forest's secrets, Jessel grew up surrounded by enchanted animals and magical beings. While she thrived in this magical world, a part of her always wondered about her origins and the reason she had been left behind. She felt a deep longing to understand why her mother had made that heart-wrenching decision. In the kingdom far from the forest, there was a prince named James, once beloved by his father and adored by the people. James was a handsome man, kind-hearted boy. The king cherished his son, and the two spent much time together in the palace. The one fateful day, the king met a beautiful and charming woman, who quickly captivated him. Already a widower after the death of his first wife, the king married this woman without hesitation, despite James's unease. The prince had no say in the matter, and life at the palace changed as they became a new family. However, the king's happiness was short-lived. Shortly after his marriage, the king was called to battle to defend his kingdom. Tragically, he was killed in the war, leaving the kingdom under the control of his new wife, the queen, Aurelia. With her cruel rule, the kingdom fell into disarray. People grew disillusioned with her, for she was more interested in power than in governing. Seizing her chance, Queen Aurelia devised a plan to remove her stepson, James, from the throne. Fearing he might one day reclaim his birthright, she poisoned his bath water with a caustic substance that disfigured his face, turning it into a grotesque mask. She then banished him to a remote, isolated location, telling the kingdom that James had died in a tragic accident during a royal tour. James, cast away in the wilderness, survived by learning to hunt and forage. The years turned him from a once handsome prince into a rugged and weathered man, his disfigured face a constant reminder of his betrayal. Act 2. The Meeting of Souls. One day, as James hunted for food, he spotted a rabbit grazing in the grass. Silent and swift, he aimed his bow and was about to shoot when the rabbit sensed danger and bolted into the deeper forest. Intrigued, James followed the rabbit, unaware that he was walking into a trap. The forest grew darker and more mysterious the further he went. He soon realized that the trees themselves seemed to move, shifting in eerie ways. Suddenly, vines sprang from the ground, wrapping around his feet and legs, trapping him in their thorny grip. Unable to move, James struggled in vain, desperate for freedom. Meanwhile, Jessel, while wandering the forest, noticed the strange vines. She was drawn to the sight of a man trapped within them. Upon closer inspection, she saw that he was badly disfigured, and her first instinct was to run. His appearance frightened her, but Jessel's compassionate heart could not let her leave him to suffer. With a deep breath, she called upon the magic of the forest, and the vines loosened their hold, releasing James. James, now free, scrambled to his feet, trying to thank the mysterious woman who had saved him, but Jessel, afraid, ran from him without a word, leaving him confused and bewildered. Determined to express his gratitude, James followed her trail, hoping to find her and thank her properly. His journey led him deeper into the enchanted forest, where he stumbled upon a hidden village of magical creatures. Terrified, James attempted to flee, but he tripped and fell, knocking himself unconscious. When he awoke, he found himself bound and surrounded by strange creatures. He struggled, but his feet were tied tight, preventing him from escaping. To his surprise, he saw Jessel again. This time, with the creatures, she commanded them to release him. Sensing that he was not a threat, they obeyed, and James was freed once more. Grateful and curious, James approached Jessel. "Thank you for saving me," he said, his voice filled with emotion. Jessel, though hesitant, accepted his thanks. Act 3. The Vision and the Growing Bond. James stayed with Jessel in the enchanted village, as he could not leave without the permission of the magical creatures. Over time, the two grew closer, and their bond deepened. One day, one of the ancient creatures, gifted with the ability to see the future, had a vision of a prosperous kingdom, ruled by a man and a woman, their faces becoming clearer in the creature's mind. As the vision solidified, the creature realized that the man and woman were none other than James and Jessel. Though the creature could not share the vision with anyone, it secretly hoped that James and Jessel would discover their shared destiny. The creature began to subtly encourage them to spend more time together, helping them to learn about each other's pasts. One evening, while talking beneath the stars, Jessel shared her story with James. She revealed that she had no memory of her origins, just as he had no memory before his banishment. James, in turn, told her about the betrayal by his stepmother and the curse that had scarred his face. Jessel was moved by his story and felt a deep sympathy for him. As the days passed, their connection grew stronger, and they found comfort in each other's company. Over time, their bond evolved into something more. Love blossomed between them, and they realized that, despite their vastly different pasts, they were two souls who had been brought together by fate. Act 4. The Healing End to Transformation. One day, while deep in thought, Jessel remembered something from her childhood, when she had been burned by a molten stream of magma. A magical creature had healed her, restoring her to health. She wondered if the same magic could cure James's disfigurement. Determined, Jessel suggested they seek the help of the mystical creatures who had helped her in the past. Together, they approached one of the creatures known for its healing abilities. Without hesitation, the creature agreed to help. It prepared a special potion using ancient, powerful ingredients and handed it to James, instructing him to drink it. As James drank the potion, a warmth spread through his body. Within minutes, his disfigured face began to change. Slowly, the scars faded, and his once handsome face was restored. The transformation was complete. James had returned to his former self. Jessel, though overjoyed, felt a pang of doubt. She had grown so fond of him as he was, but James, noticing her hesitation, gently reassured her. "No matter what I look like, my heart is the same," he said, his voice full of sincerity. "I love you, Jessel, just as I always have." Together, they celebrated the successful transformation with the magical creatures. The joy of the moment was shared by all, and Jessel's doubts melted away. She knew that James was the same man, whether he was disfigured or restored. Her love for him remained unchanged. Act 5. The Return. As James's curse is broken, his true form is restored, and he decides to return to the palace to reclaim his birthright. His return threatens to expose Queen Aurelia's deceit and the dark deeds she has committed to seize control of the kingdom. Fearing the truth will be revealed, Aurelia embarks on a desperate search for James, hoping to stop him before he can return to the castle. Meanwhile, James's journey back to the kingdom is met with suspicion and hostility from those loyal to Aurelia. This shocks Aurelia, because James, now restored to his true appearance, looks exactly as the people of the palace remember him. When James arrives at the palace gates, one of the king's trusted advisors, Lord Talon, immediately recognizes James's face. However, James is dressed in the simple clothes of a common man, and Lord Talon wonders if he might be mistaken. Still, something about the man's appearance feels familiar, and Talon hesitates. Trying to protect the queen and avoid any harm, Lord Talon attempts to stop James from coming any closer. Suddenly, James shouts, demanding to speak to the queen. "I will take back what is rightfully mine," he declares. "How could the queen ruin my life, my birthright, my family?" His voice rings through the palace courtyard. He calls out to Lord Talon, asking if he recognizes him, as the advisor stands frozen in shock and confusion. Talon, confused but uncertain, approaches cautiously. James introduces himself, revealing that he is the true prince of the kingdom, cursed and abandoned as a child, left to survive in the wilderness. The crowd listens in stunned silence. Lord Talon, struggling to process this revelation, questions the queen's actions. He demands to know why Aurelia lied about James's fate. Aurelia, now desperate to protect her lies, claims that James is an impostor, a man trying to ruin the kingdom she has worked so hard to control. She insists that the real prince died in an accident, as she had previously declared. Meanwhile, Jessel, feeling an uneasy pull from the magical forest, decides to leave and accompany James to the palace. She hopes to support him through the difficult confrontation ahead. When Jessel arrives at the palace, she finds a large, angry crowd gathered. Lord Talon has called them together, and tensions are high as everyone demands the truth. Act 6. The confrontation. Aurelia stands before the gathered crowd, denying that James is the true prince. She insists that he is a mere impostor, trying to destroy everything she has worked for. The queen fiercely defends her version of events, her words sharp and filled with contempt. The crowd murmurs, uncertain whom to believe. As the tension builds, Lord Talon steps forward, his gaze piercing as he looks at James. He demands that James recount details from his childhood that only the real prince would know. James, with his voice steady, recalls memories from his time with his father, the late king. He speaks of the special bond they share and the moments they spent together during royal tour and private lessons. Talon listens closely, nodding slowly, for everything James says matches his own memories. Talon had been at the king's side for many years, and he recognizes the prince's words as truth. After hearing James's recounting of his childhood, Talon understands. This man truly is the lost prince, and his return is a threat to the deceitful queen's power. With the truth now revealed, Lord Talon orders the queen's arrest. But in a final, desperate attempt to silence James, Aurelia grabs a knife and lunges at him, intending to kill the prince before he can expose her once and for all. In that moment of chaos, a woman leaps forward, taking the knife's blow to protect James. The crowd gasps in shock as the woman falls to the ground, the knife wound deep in her side. James, horrified, looks down at the woman who has shielded him with her own body. To his surprise, he realizes that it is Jessel, the woman who had helped him all those years ago, the one who had become so much more than a mere friend. His heart pounds in his chest as he sees her lie wounded before him, the blood staining her clothes. The crowd, shocked by the act of sacrifice, falls silent. Lord Talon rushes forward, grabbing the knife just in time to prevent it from hitting Jessel fully. Only the tip grazes her back, but it is enough to draw blood. Aurelia, seeing the wound, turns to look at Jessel with an expression of disbelief. As the crowd murmurs, the queen suddenly recognizes something. She notices a distinctive birthmark on Jessel's shoulder, a mark that had been hidden beneath her clothing until now. Aurelia's eyes widen in shock. Act 7. The truth unfolds. Where did you come from? Aurelia demands, her voice trembling with emotion. Is that birthmark true? The room goes still, and Jessel, James, and Lord Talon exchange confused glances. Jessel, still reeling from the attack, looks at Aurelia. I don't understand, she says. I was raised by the magical creatures in the forest. I don't know who my true family is, I only know that I was left there as a child. Aurelia's eyes flicker with a mix of recognition and grief. Overcome with emotion, she collapses to her knees. With a broken voice, she confesses everything. I abandoned you, my daughter. In the forest, she sobs, when you were just a baby. I never wanted to, but the people they called me a witch. They blamed me for a terrible outbreak that plagued the land. They thought I had cursed the kingdom, and in their fear, they came for us. I couldn't protect you. I had to run. I had no choice. Aurelia tells the heartbreaking story of her past. She had been raised by the forest's creatures after her own family abandoned her. When she grew older, she fell in love with a handsome man, a warrior who would become her husband. Together, they had a daughter, Jessel, but tragedy struck when her husband went to war and died, leaving her alone with her child. The outbreak that followed only worse, and the situation, and the people's anger turned to violence. Desperate to escape, Aurelia fled into the forest with Jessel, but the people were determined to destroy her. In an agonizing decision, Aurelia abandoned her daughter, hoping the magical creatures would protect her. Years later, after Aurelia had become queen and met the king, she found herself trapped in a web of revenge. She had married the king, not for love, but to avenge the loss of her daughter and reclaim power from those who had wronged her. She had been consumed by her grief and desire for vengeance, but she never stopped mourning the child she had abandoned. As Aurelia continues her tale, the truth finally becomes clear. Jessel is her long-lost daughter, the girl she had left behind in the forest all those years ago. The realization devastates Aurelia, and with tears in her eyes, she begs for forgiveness from the people, from James, and from Jessel. I was wrong. I made the worst mistake of my life, she weeps. Please, forgive me. I never wanted to hurt you. Act 8. Forgiveness and redemption. James, now understanding the full extent of Aurelia's pain, forgives her for her past actions. With a calm but resolute voice, he publicly reveals her tragic backstory, exposing the wrongs that were done to her and the unfair accusations that led to her decisions. He tells the people about her abandonment, the false claims of witchcraft, and the grief that drove her to make choices she never truly wanted. The kingdom, filled with remorse, begins to understand the depth of Aurelia's suffering. They see that her actions, though harsh, were not driven by malice but by fear, loss, and the betrayal of a kingdom that once revered her. Slowly, the people start to come to terms with the truth and acknowledge the mistakes of the past. Meanwhile, Jessel, hearing the truth of her mother's suffering, is overcome with emotion. The pain of all the years spent in isolation, of not knowing the woman who gave her life, melts away in a wave of understanding. She walks toward Aurelia, who stands trembling, her face a mask of guilt and sorrow. Without a word, Jessel embraces her mother. In that moment, all the years of separation, anger, and pain vanish, replaced by an overwhelming sense of love and reconciliation. Jessel accepts Aurelia's heartfelt apology wholeheartedly, her heart wide open. Aurelia, overwhelmed by guilt for all she had done, promises to work alongside James to heal the kingdom and make amends for the wrongs of the past. Act 9. Rebuilding the kingdom. With the truth revealed and the painful past acknowledged, James, Jessel, and Aurelia work together to rebuild the kingdom. James ascends the throne, his rightful place as king finally restored. Under his leadership, the people, once divided by lies and greed, unite with compassion and understanding. James's reign is marked by a commitment to justice, kindness, and healing. He listens to the voices of the people, working to right the wrongs that had plagued the kingdom for years. Aurelia, though scarred by her past and the weight of her mistakes, becomes a key advisor to James. Her wisdom, born from her own suffering, helps guide him toward making decisions that bring balance to the kingdom. Jessel, too, plays an important role. As the kingdom's new queen, she helps create a world where love and empathy are valued above all else. Together, they build a fair and prosperous future, one that honors both the past and the possibilities of tomorrow. Epilogue: a kingdom transformed. In a grand ceremony filled with joy and celebration, James and Jessel are married. The people of the kingdom come together, their hearts united in a shared hope for the future. Their union is a symbol of forgiveness, love, and renewal, a reminder that the most broken of relationships can be mended, and that true strength lies in a willingness to heal, rather than to seek revenge. As for the enchanted forest, its magic remains a secret, hidden from the eyes of the kingdom. Jessel, ever protective of the creatures who raised her, never reveals the true extent of the wonders that exist within its depths. The forest remains a place of mystery and beauty, untouched by the demands of the outside world. The story ends with a powerful message. True love and forgiveness can heal even the deepest wounds, and the pursuit of power through greed and vengeance will always come to an end. Compassion and understanding will always prevail, offering a path toward a better future.
The power of forgiveness. The story emphasizes the importance of understanding and forgiving those who have wronged us, recognizing that everyone carries burdens of their own, often hidden from others. Healing through love. Jessel and James's Oman symbolizes the transformative power of love to heal both personal wounds and the scars left by betrayal and deceit. Redemption and responsibility. Aurelia's journey from villain to a redeemed figure teaches that redemption is possible, but it requires humility, truth, and a willingness to make amends.